guys, it's me again, Angie, and welcome to another video. For today's video, I'm going to discuss you the topic configure a network operating system in chapter 2. For the introduction, we began this chapter with a look at the difference between local and wide area networks. This was followed by a look at the different types of equipment commonly found on networks, including repeaters, hubs, bridges, switches, and routers. Our look at equipment focused not only on their functions but also their relationship to the OSI model. We also covered how the equipment related to the concepts of broadcast and collision domains. A look at network transmission methods provide a perspective on the three different mechanisms used to transmit data, such as unicast, multicast, and broadcast. This was followed by an overview of network cabling that included information on cable properties and maximum lengths. We also looked at the wiring of crossover and straight UTP cables to connect both similar and different port types. A look at media access methods provided an overview of contention, token passing, and polling, outlining the relative advantages and disadvantages of each in different environments. Finally, a look at LAN technologies was used to gain an understanding of how data is passed over Ethernet networks. This included a look at addressing, frame types, and physical characteristics. So, the objectives of configuring a network operating system is to explain the purpose of Cisco IOS, explain how to access a Cisco iOS device for configuration purposes, explain how to navigate Cisco iOS to configure network devices, describe the command structure of Cisco iOS software. Then, access methods. So these are the access methods: console, secure shell or the SSH, or the telnet. A Cisco iOS switch can be implemented with no configuration and still switch data between connected devices. By connecting two PCs to a switch, those PCs will instantly have connectivity with one another. Even though a Cisco switch all function immediately, configuring initial settings are recommended best practice. There are several ways to access the CLI environment and configure the device. The common methods are console, secure shell, SSH, and the telnet. Console. Console is a physical management port that provides out-of-band access to a Cisco device. Out-of-band access to a Cisco device. Out-of-band access refers to access via a dedicated management channel that is used for device maintenance purposes only. SSH is a method for remotely establishing a secure CLI connection through a virtual interface over a network. Then the primary command code. As a security feature, the Cisco iOS software separates management access into the following two command modes: the user exec mode and the privileged exec mode. User exec mode is a mode that has limited capabilities but is useful for basic operations. This allows only a limited number of basic monitoring commands but does not allow the execution of any commands that might change the configuration of the device. The user exec mode is identified by the CLI prompt that ends with the greater than symbol. Privileged exec mode. To execute configuration commands, a network administrator must access privileged exec mode. Higher configuration modes like global configuration mode can only be reached from the privileged exec mode. The privileged exec mode can be identified by the prompt ending with the sharp symbol. So the thermal emulation programs are PuTTY, TerraTherm, Secure CRT, OSX Terminal. So user exec mode. It ends with the symbol with a greater than symbol. View only command, basic monitoring commands, useful for basic commands, then we will use enter. Privileged exec mode ends with sharp symbol, allows access to all commands, useful for monitoring commands, configuration, and management commands, enable plus enter. Subconfig modes. Line configuration mode, line console 0, interface configuration mode, interface VLAN 1, and then interface VLAN 015. Global configuration mode is accessed before other specific configuration modes. From global config mode, the user can enter different sub-configuration modes. Each of these modes allows the configuration of a particular part or function of the iOS device. Two common sub-configuration modes are line configuration mode and the interface configuration mode. Line configuration mode is used to configure console, SSH, telnet, or the AUX access, while interface configuration mode used to configure a switch port or router network interface. When using the CLI, the mode is identified by the command line prompt that is unique to that mode. By default, every prompt begins with a device name. Following the name, the remainder of the prompt indicates the mode. Global configuration mode ends with config and then sharp. CLI config changes are made that affect the whole operation of device. Configure terminal. So the navigate iOS commands are enable, disable, configure terminal, exit, and or the control Z. Hotkeys or shortcuts are this: conft, tab, backspace, at the more prompt, enter key, space bar, any key, break keys, control C, control Z, control shift 6, control A, control E, and control R. General syntax for a command are command plus appropriate keyword argument. Boldface indicates commands and keywords. Italics, argument for which user provides value. To configure the device, the user must enter Global Configuration Mode, which is commonly called Global Config Mode. From Global Config Mode, CLA configuration changes the mode that affect the operation of the device as a whole. Global Configuration Mode is identified by a prompt that ends with config sharp after the device name. IP address. A Cisco iOS device supports many commands. Each iOS command has a specific format or syntax and can only be executed in the appropriate mode. The general syntax for a command is as the command followed by the two appropriate keywords and arguments. So, keywords is a specific parameter defined in the operating system, while argument is not predefined, a value or variable defined by the user in figure. So, IP address. Ping or the IP address. The command is ping and the user-defined argument is the IP address of the destination device. For example, ping 10.10.10.5. Then, trace root IP address. The command is trace root and the user-defined argument is the IP address of the destination device. The Cisco iOS command reference is the ultimate source of information for a particular iOS device. The iOS CLI provides hotkeys and shortcuts that make configuring, monitoring, and troubleshooting easier as commands and keywords can be shortened to the minimum number of characters that identify a unique selection. For example, the configure command can be shortened to conf figure or so. Configure is the only command that begins with conf. An even shorter version of con will not work because more than one command begins with con. Storing device configuration, startup config, nvram, running config, ram. The commands for this show startup config, copy running config, startup config, then reload. Then switch virtual interface configuration. The command is from global exec mode, from global configuration mode, interface VLAN 1, then IP address, then the IP address subnet mask, no shutdown, show IP interface brief, other commands, IP config, then ping. So that is all for today. Thank you for watching and see you on my next video. Bye!